I'm in Belarus, about an hour's drive away from Minsk, and I'm here to visit a World War II memorial called Khatyn. Khatyn was a village that was burned by the Nazis, and in 1969 the government built a memorial here. So I'm making my way inside. There are foundations laid out where each of the 26 houses in this village used to stand before it was burned. And right now we're standing where the house of the village blacksmith once stood. And he was one of the only people to survive the massacre. And he lived into the 1970s, and his entire family perished. And the statue that you see at the front of this memorial when you walk in is of that man holding his dead son in his arms. And until his death, he would come here on the anniversary of the massacre every year and tell everyone what happened. And when you go inside the foundations of these homes, you see that the chimney, where the chimney stood, because it was a wooden house with a chimney, the chimney stand, and at the top of each chimney is a bell. And it's incredibly moving. You can hear it as I'm talking. Every 30 seconds, the bell at the top of each of these houses rings. They ring in unison every 30 seconds. It's incredibly powerful and haunting to be here and know where those sounds are coming from. And also on the chimneys they have a plaque with the name of the family that lived here that was murdered and the ages of the children. Over 600 villages that suffered the same fate as Khatyn in Belarus, and there's a memorial here with the number 186, and that refers to the number of villages that were not rebuilt. Many of them were, but 186 were forever erased from the map of Belarus, along with all of the people who lived there. So many villages, like I said, suffered the same fate, and when the Nazis arrived here, sorry, it's that sound. I'm gonna finish because I want to tell you what happened. When the Nazis came, they took everyone who lived here, every single person, man, woman, child, baby, and they put them in a barn, and they locked them in, and they poured gasoline all over the straw roof, and they set it on fire. And of course people tried to escape, and anyone who tried to run out of the barn or break free was shot with machine guns. And only 3 people survived by accident because the Nazis didn't want to leave any survivors. And one of the people who survived was a teenager, and he only lived because his mother, in her last breath movement, rolled her body over his, and so her dead body was covering her son, which is why the Nazis didn't realize that there was someone still alive underneath. And this happened in more than 600 villages. Here we see the names of some of the villages that were burned. And if you look in the center of each memorial, this is where they have ashes from this particular village. And you can see how many villages were burned. This area, this memorial, was opened in 1969, and it's not only to this village of Khatyn, but behind me is a long wall which is in memory of people who died in concentration camps here in Belarus. And behind me you can see some toys, because a lot of school groups from Belarus visit here, and the children bring these toys because this particular part of the memorial is sorry, it's really hard to talk here, is dedicated to children in orphanages. Basically, the Nazis would tell the children, small children, that we are going to move you from this orphanage to another orphanage. And the children went with them, and instead they took them to the forest and shot them. Because the Nazis wanted the brick buildings that the orphanages were housed in for their administration buildings. And on the other side, those were children who were killed so that the blood could be used in Nazi military hospitals. Over there we saw the number 186, the number of villages that were burned by the Nazis and then never rebuilt. And over here they have symbolic trees to represent 433 of those burned villages that were rebuilt. One in 4 Belarusians were killed during the war, and so this flame here is to commemorate the one of every 4 that died. There are also 3 trees that you can see behind to symbolize the 3 people who lived, survived, carried on, and then the flame to commemorate those who did not. It's difficult to describe what it feels like to stand here and see this in person, and to know what it represents. Really, there's no way to describe it. I don't have words. As you're walking around this memorial, they have a sidewalk laid out here. And I imagine this is where the paths and roads were when this was a village. You can see a couple of houses down there. And as we look down here, there are a few more. One at the end, another neighbor over there. And it's really powerful to walk around here and imagine how it was when it was a village. And just knowing what happened to the people here is, it's just truly unbelievable. The structure behind me is built to resemble the roof of the barn that once stood here in the village, and this is where the Nazis rounded up all of the villagers, 149 people, and burned them all inside. 149 people murdered, 75 of whom were children. Visiting here has been incredibly powerful, extremely moving experience, and the sound of the bells especially is so chilling and so haunting as you're walking around, knowing what they represent and what happened here, and not only here in this village of Khatyn, but in over 600 other villages, and all the other tragedy and loss of life. So important to come here and remember what happened. So I hope that you have been moved by this experience as well, and that you'll take a moment to remember as well.